Ladies and gentlemen, KuKirin reached out to me and they said, Premises, we watched your G2 Pro video and we heard you say it was the greatest e-scooter you've ever ridden. This is a fact. So when they told me I have to check out the G2 Max, I was so excited. As a little FYI, I reviewed this G2 Pro a year ago. I still use it quite regularly, runs reliably. And without further ado, let's open up the package. Ladies and gentlemen, it appears we have a box within a box. It's pretty cool because this can be used as a blue screen. I have to say that is one fine looking e-scooter. The only assembly necessary is with the handlebars here. It's just 4 bolts and we'll be ready to roll. Oh, it's so pretty. We're going to take a quick look at the differences here between the G2 Max and the older G2 Pro. And the G2 Pro with the 15 amp hour battery and the G2 Max with the 20 amp hour battery, so we've got a bigger footboard to accommodate that. And looking at the wheels here, we've got the G2 Pro with 9 inches and the Max rocking 10 inch wheels. The Max has the 1000 watt motor and the Pro has a 600 watt motor. Before we hit the streets, we're going to charge it up for a few hours. Then we're going to check all the bolts using the provided toolkit, make sure they're tight. And lastly, we're going to pump up the tires. And I'm not going to use that, I'm going to use this. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been riding around on this bad boy for around 20 minutes now. My first impressions, positive, extremely positive. Everything about it is great. It feels sturdy, very comfortable. I'm really liking the width of the footboard there. The other thing I'm loving about this adventure style scooter is you can go anywhere with it. Take it off-road, commute on the road. It just feels perfectly at home no matter where you ride it. Let's take a look at the features the KuKirin G2 Max offers, and boy, there's a lot of them to go over. Turning on the G2 Max, we're greeted with the speedometer, a voltage readout, odometer, trip meter, and also our battery meter. Over to the left we have our light switch, we have our turn signals, and we also have a horn. These have to be some of the best lights I've seen on an e-scooter. The handlebars have 3 height adjustments. You can collapse the steering stem by giving this a good twist, and then you want to pull on the knob. Leading the charge up at the front, we have some chunky 10-inch off-road tires. Just to put it into perspective, the tires are wider than a can of Coke. I just don't feel like the camera does these tires justice. They truly are chunky boys. Tucked away behind the front and rear wheel, we have our shock absorber. These bad boys are the secret source of our all-terrain and off-road capabilities. The G2 Max has front and rear disc brakes. You wouldn't want to leave the house without them. Down the middle we have our nice and wide footboard. Very grippy. This houses the 20 amp hour battery, and KuKirin claims it will get you up to 80 kilometers. And down at the back we have our 1000 watt motor. KuKirin claims that it's capable of reaching 55 kilometers per hour, but in my testing under my 92 kilogram weight, I managed to get 48 kilometers per hour. One important thing to point out is that this e-scooter is capable of traveling up 30-degree inclines. The average e-scooter on the market is probably capable of doing 14. I've seen one struggling to get into the Sainsbury's car park. That certainly isn't a problem with the KuKirin G2 Max. And I cannot complete this review without trying out the optional extra seat that comes free with the G2 Max. The seat post has a spring for additional suspension. And here are my final thoughts of the KuKirin G2 Max. I've owned and ridden this e-scooter for around 3 weeks, and in that time I've racked up 77 kilometers. This e-scooter now takes the crown for the greatest e-scooter I've ridden. The 1000 watt motor is nice, torquey, and can pull wheelies if you give the front wheel a little bounce. As mentioned earlier, I managed 48 kilometers per hour top speed. A lighter rider than myself would certainly pull off higher. KuKirin claims the battery is good for 80 kilometers of riding, but I believe this would only be possible if you kept to power modes 1 or 2. While I've had this scooter, I've been abusing it in power mode 3, traveling on road, off road, up hills, down hills, and a lot of stop and starting. All things that could really sap a battery. I estimate I was getting around 50 kilometers out of the battery from riding this way. I would be interested in making another video where I stick to power mode 2 and ride sensibly and see what I can get. In terms of value, the G2 Max represents outstanding value for money. A 1000 watt well equipped adventure scooter for well under £800 is unheard of. The thing that's really great about KuKirin as a company is they post videos about speed unlocking, maintenance and tyre changes on their YouTube channel. On the subject of tyre changes, anyone with experience changing an e-scooter tyre knows it can be a nightmare, especially with the rear wheel. The G2 Pro and the G2 Max feature something called split rims, where you can split the rim into two, making a tyre and tube change easy. If I was to be critical or nitpicky, I would say that I think the folding mechanism where the stem attaches to the rear fender is a bit fiddly. The G2 Max weighs 31 kilograms, although it's hard for me to be really critical on this point because more weight naturally comes from having a bigger battery and motor. If you're interested in buying a G2 Max, be sure to check out the link in the description and pick one up from the official KuKirin store. Remember, it's your responsibility to know your local laws and regulations regarding e-scooters. And as always, ride safe.